Thank you so much for joining us today for the Pastor's Potluck Podcast. Here on the Pastor's Potluck, it's similar to a normal potluck where you might get something that you want and there may be something that you just want to pass up altogether. And that's okay. There's something here for everybody. Our goal here is to encourage you and maybe in the process entertain you. If you're ready, let's dig in. Welcome to another episode of the Pastor's Potluck Dude, we can't... What? We are starting off like, I don't know. Dude, okay, so here's the thing. Last night, I fell asleep in my chair at like 7 o'clock in the p.m. I didn't wake up till amazing. 6 this morning. Like, I got up and went to bed or whatever, but yeah. I don't know. Like, and then I'm all over the place this morning. I feel like
you got so much rest that you're like, what do I do?
I know. I'm like right now I'm thinking I need to go buy some chapstick. Like that's literally the stupid thing that's on my mind right now.
I am thinking I should have made myself a cup of coffee before this.
There's hot coffee in the coffee pot.
Over there?
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
So
please, thank you.
Pastor Anna will make a sneak appearance and give you some coffee.
She's amazing. She'll come from the side and just like it'll be the hand.
Yeah.
In the commercials, you know, that like where you only had a hand.
Yeah.
With the stuff. Okay. Again, I need coffee.
Yeah, you need some coffee flavored chapstick.
That would be
well. They make it. They make all kinds of different scents and fragrances and everything else like that. So, thank you, Pastor Anna.
It was just the hand.
Yeah. I don't know how y'all drink black coffee.
It's not my favorite, but I will do it.
Is it hot?
It's really hot.
Yeah. Dude, they made that early. I don't know. Somebody made it. I came into my office and it was already cooking. And nice. Yeah. I wonder if they met in here this morning for Bible study.
Oh, maybe.
I wasn't able to. No, Erica's headed out of town. She's got a big volleyball tournament on this weekend. So, in Ohio. And so I've got the kids and the dogs all to myself. And it's like one of those things, fun. Like we just have like a really good routine in the morning because we both get up. We both help get the kids ready. We both walk the dogs. It's mutual. Nobody ever gets mad at each other for anything. And now that she's not here, I'm dreading it. Like,
but at least your kids are of the age that they can all get themselves like dressed and teeth brushed.
They do all of it.
On.
I just have to wake them up. This is where we're at in life, and this is fantastic.
Nice. Like I don't want to wish away the time now, but like that excites me for that moment in time. Because even though like Esme can do all the things, she is not a morning person. Yeah. So I have to like most of the time I pick her up out of bed, sit her on my lap, I give her a morning hug because she likes her good night hug and her good morning hug. So I give her a good morning hug, and then I like sit her up on her feet in between my legs because she's like so wobbly that she like rests on my legs with her eyes closed, and I start getting her changed because like otherwise it takes way too long.
Yeah.
And so I got her partially changed, and she was like, Mom, today we were supposed to dress crazy for Red Ribbon Week or something. And I was like, well, honey, I'm sorry. I don't have time to find you crazy stuff. Like, just put this on, and I'll put your hair in pigtails. And she was like, okay.
That's crazy.
And yeah. I mean, I don't know. So it worked this morning, but.
No, it's great because the kids right now, they get up, brush their teeth, they get dressed by themselves, they eat breakfast, and we just got them recently starting making their own lunches.
Nice.
Now, the problem is like I've started doing this, but the first couple days of doing this, they were leaving all their lunch and stuff at the house. And so whenever I get in the car, and it's a random child every single morning. All right, you got all your schoolwork? Yep. You got, you need a jacket today. It's going to be chilly or whatever. You got your lunch, and every single morning it's one of the three that's like, oh, I got to go grab something, whether it's their PE clothes or whatever. And it's just, but it's great. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
And, we were looking forward to this day for a long time, and we are glad that it's here, and there's no turning back now.
Yeah.
It's one of the things that, like, we've always just tried to instill, like, our kids, like, if you live in this house, like, you're a contributor.
Yes.
Like, you're helping clean. You're going to help put stuff
Carter
away.
and Esme fought over the dishes last night. It was lovely.
Oh, I remember that day. That was a great day. Like, I want to put it up. I want to put, the forks go here. And you're like, well, I don't care where they go.
Carter
just as long
was
as it
already
gets in that
done
drawer.
eating, and so was everybody else. So, like, he was helping me, and Esme is a very, like, slow eater. So she was still eating. So she was like, I'm so mad. I want to help. Why do I not get to help? And I'm like, because you're not even done eating. Finish your food.
Yeah.
So, so I saved some for her to do because,
Yep.
Yeah, but.
Well, we got two good topics today that we're going to talk about. First thing is that, like, I'm really super excited for this upcoming missions trip that we have to Ecuador for everybody that's involved. I've been on numerous mission trips all over the world, and I know the sense and I know the feeling that everybody has whenever they come back. There's just this newfound appreciation for things that we have in America. There's a sense of urgency with wanting to share the gospel with people. It is just amazing. But also, this is our first trip with our ministry partner, Kids Around the World. Talk a little bit and kind of give the listeners something, or just like give them an overview of who Kids Around the World is and our partnership with them, and just to kind of educate people on who they are as an organization.
Gotcha. Well, Kids Around the World has been around for a while, and they mainly were known for putting in playgrounds around the world, in underprivileged areas or, third world countries where there's nothing like that for kids. And a lot of times they use like refurbished playgrounds, things like that. But a few years ago, really right before, I want to say 2019, like they started putting things together for their Generation Hope Project, or Gen Hope Project, which is, and they piloted it in Ecuador. And what it is through story, food, and play, they partner with communities that they call Hope Zones. So these small villages, they come alongside a local church that's there with a local pastor, and they put a call out basically to the community about coming and being able to register for story clubs. And at the story clubs, they hear about Jesus, they're discipled, and then afterwards they are sent home with these rice-based meals that also have, One Meal is the company that they partner with for these, that gives them the nutrition they need, and there's a vitamin pack in there also for especially designed for kids who are in areas where they're malnourished and things like that. And so so they're able to sign up and register to be a part of this, and they have to attend the story club, and when they leave, they get their meals to take home with them, and they send them home with the families, because they know that families can do a lot more with them. Like, I've been to the places where, the school gets the food or the church gets the food, and they make it but that's like one meal a week where they're going home with it, and they're able to have it all throughout the week. And they do a lot of different things. Like when we went down for the vision trip, the one home that we were in, they made us this like lentil milkshake that they put the vitamin pack in it with some lentils and with some coconut milk and whatever, and create like this milkshake blend to get their kids to actually take the vitamins and stuff like that. And so they gave that to us as our drink with our meal.
Sounds good.
It didn't taste that bad. The texture was weird, and there was a flavor I couldn't figure out when we got on the bus, and they finally said, "Oh, who had the lentil milkshake?" And I was like, "Lentils, that's what it was." Because I couldn't figure out, because they were like, "It's like a milkshake. You're okay. You can drink it." And I'm like, "Okay." But there was just the flavor that I couldn't get over. Like the texture wasn't great, but it wasn't terrible. Like I could do it. But it was just a unique way. Like, so, not every family would do that, but, they're able to use it in the way that they need it. And then within a few years of either a church or organization sponsoring a Hope Zone, they have them put in a playground, and the playground does a lot for them because in these areas, they don't have necessarily like a safe place to play and be active. Like in Ecuador, soccer's huge, right? And so you'll find like really nice soccer pitches all over the place, but they're mainly used by the adult male population. Like the kids don't really have an opportunity to play on it. It's locked up during the day. The men open it up and go in there at night. There's beer cans. There's things like, so there's just not, they don't have a safe place for that kind of thing. And so putting in a playground does a whole lot for kids because it's an area where they can, it helps develop them physically, but also like their imagination at play. Like, most of us have been on a playground before, and the ways that we play on a playground are not always the way it's designed, right? Like it's designed in such a way that it's built for creativity. And so it allows these kids this opportunity. And just when we went on the vision trip and getting to hear from the families of like how much ownership those kids have over it and how much that's helped them in their development, like kids who were skinny and malnourished and whatever, just having some muscle now and like having more energy because they're playing outside and they're doing these things, like instead of sitting around in the whatever type of house they have. And and then just also hearing the stories of the attitude changes and the character changes within the kids, and like how the story clubs and the way that they teach the kids and disciple the kids, they use the stories and narrative script, like texts from scripture, because scripture initially, like how it was passed down was narrating it to, and so they take that because they know that like, a parent, usually the mom, is bringing the kids to the story clubs. Sometimes they'll get close and listen in, but a lot of times they're not. But these kids go back home and they share those same stories with their families. Yeah. And so they're hearing stories like they're of families coming to know Christ and coming back to the church and coming and hearing more. And it's just a really, really cool thing. So Ecuador is where it started. And when we were down there, I want to say that there were like maybe they had 20 Hope Zones established, like several that still needed sponsorships, and we chose Las Chakras as our sponsorship Hope Zone. But we were on the call last night with our team and the people from Ecuador, and they said that they have 45 Hope Zones there now.
No, that's crazy.
45, yeah. And it's like they thought, their goal in the first few years was to get to like 12, and within the first year they had already doubled that. And so they were like, it's really cool. And our Hope Zone's really unique because it has the potential to be really, really big. But the pastor of the church, Pastor Vicente, he actually came to them and asked them to come alongside of him and help. And so like he's actually, like, everyone that's a part of it, he has personally brought in. Like, he's gone and visited families in their homes and asked them if they want to be a part of this and brought them in. And so like it's just super cool to see that dynamic, because typically they use the WhatsApp down there, and I guess there's like community messaging boards on that and whatever that they put it out, that they can put out
that's amazing,
to the different communities and stuff. So they would send it out and they would have them come and do this like initial presentation about what they plan to offer, and they would have the link to the registration form and be able to fill out the registration form and to register their kids and all that. And I'm just really excited for this trip because we're building a playground.
How many people from our church are going on this trip?
So I believe there's going to be 9.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So, because Pastor Jess was kind of like an unsure thing, but after last night, I think she's a definite probably going, because we were able to hear that they're like she'll have something to be able to do
Yeah.
while there. They said there's always kids around when they're building the playgrounds, and they always want somebody to be able to interact with the kids from the team. And so he was like, that sounds like the perfect thing for you to do as the children's pastor of your church. And, you know, being injured and not being able to like work on the playground, he was like, that would be great. Like, and so, and like some of the Hope Zones you have to kind of hike in on, you know, because we ride in a tour bus while we're down there, and some of them, the roads are not developed or there, but like in our Hope Zone they are. And so he was like, you will be able to drive right in, and as long as you can manage the steps, you're good. And so so yeah, it's really cool and exciting. And actually until last night they weren't 100% sure, like because Steve who works for them, and he's local in Ecuador, and his wife is Ecuadorian. He was like, we're still trying to find out, because it was government owned. And he said, we're trying to get them to fully give us the land. We're still in the works. He said, you guys be praying about that. Well, his wife got on the call and was able to tell us the governor just signed off on your permits. And so, and they're really excited about it. Like, they're very community based, like in these villages.
Oh yeah.
The villages have like, they'll have like a village president and like a village watch team and like things like that, where they look out for each other. And it's really cool, because I think, you know, things like that are missing in our country a lot, because we have so many modern conveniences that we can do it all on our own. But there, it seems, you know, they're very much like out to help each other and be there for each other in ways that
well, it's similar to my house. If you live here, you're contributing, you know. And you see that a lot in a lot of places of the world. It's just everybody's willing to pitch in and help, or, you know, like you said, like there's watch teams, there's people that kind of like help make decisions, you know, address issues if they come up or whatever. And it's pretty amazing like how it works, but it's awesome just to see that, you know, they don't look down on their neighbor if they don't cut their grass or whatever. It's just like, hey, let's help out in any way that we can to do that. So
and so Jackie said, like, so this land apparently, like, they owned it, the government owned it, because they had planned to build their like police station or something there. And then they chose a different location, and it's just sat empty for years. So they were like so excited. They were like, yes, this is great, because we've been trying to figure out what to do with this land, and we would love to just gift it to the community and provide this. So it was really cool to end our call with that, like with that news and all that last night. But
and one of the cool things is that our partnership, since we've been with kids around the world, and specifically Las Chakras for, what is it now, 2 years now? And so one of the things that we've been able to do every single year is, obviously, we do our meal packing here. The first one we had at a school down the road, and then we had our most recent one a couple weeks ago, where we converted the E-zone into a meal packing zone, which was awesome. And then one of the things that I just thought was just like super amazing is that we were able to help out the church down there with some bills that they owned as well, or they had, because I mean, at the rate that they were paying it off, it would have probably taken 40-50 years,
oh my gosh,
if that, to pay it off.
Because so when Pastor Scott and I visited, and we're sitting in this circle in their church, hearing Pastor Vicente and his heart, like, you look over and there's this little like whiteboard on the wall, and I know a little bit of Spanish, so I could tell that it seemed like an offering, like, because, you know, we don't do this here, but a lot of older churches would list their like weekly offering and
weekly
giving,
attendance,
you know, whatever, all that. And so like you see it, and I look at the amount, because they use U.S. currency down there as well. And so I look at the amount, and it's like $2. And I was like, oh, wow. Like, and so they had this, where the church that we were meeting in was actually on land owned by a member of the church. So it didn't actually belong to the church, but this member was okay with it, you know, whatever. but if anything were to happen, they'd be out completely. But the land parcel behind the church was for sale, and so they were under contract to buy it. And we're talking like $2,000.
Yeah.
$2,500, something like that, which in our state, like, doesn't seem like that much, but for them at $2 a week, a lot. But as we're sitting there, like, Pastor Scott already knew that we were going to be going into this, you know, campaign to help pay off the debt of the church. And
wasn't it like $5,000?
No,
it was $2,500.
It was under 3,000. It was very close to 2,000.
Yeah, it had taken 52. It had taken 24 years at $2 a week, or, you know.
Yeah, and that's to say that, like, you don't have to use that money for anything else. But
that's
Pastor
insane.
Scott was sitting there, you know, and he said, like, I'm watching him because I'm like, he's dealing with something over there, you know? Yeah. I'm like, I've worked with him long enough that, like, I can tell when things are happening, and
the gears are rolling.
And then afterward, like, he starts asking Steve, like, several questions. They're having, like, a little side conversation. I go out with some kids and whatever to play and talk, and, like, he's still in there. They're having this conversation, and he's like, while in there, like, I heard God say, like, if you want to pay off your debt, you're going to start with theirs. And he was like, what? This is crazy, you know? Yeah. And it was so cool because whenever he did share about that in the service and everything, somebody gave the money for it that day. Like, it was paid off in a day here, where there it would have taken
24 years
at least, at the minimum.
Yeah. And that's if that $2 a week is like, we don't know if that was like a big giving week for them. Yeah. You know, that's crazy.
So I'm really excited to go back down there and see, you know, what they've done, if they've been able to do anything yet. Like, I think that they maybe have put the foundation down, like just the base, like, whatever. I don't know if they've done, or they're in the works for that at least. But I'm excited to go down there and see, you know, Pastor Vicente again, because we will be able to attend the story club there. Yeah. While we're there, and just see, because I was super impressed. They had this young, like, 15-year-old girl there that leads their story club. Yeah. And so we also, like, within the addition to the meals and things that we do every year, we provide the financial support for that discipleship to continue to happen, for them to have the supplies they need, for the training, for the people who do the story clubs, and all of that. And so, like, but she just shared from her heart, and it was just so cool, because I'm like, man, not many 15-year-olds are, like, that dedicated to say, like, I love this, I lead this. My dream is to have a separate building and space for the kids, like, you know, or to have this for the kids. Like, it was just super cool. So I'm really excited to go back down and build this playground and see the community. Like, we'll be working alongside other people within the community. Yeah. And Marlone is actually, like, he's, like, the main Kids Around the World employee that works with our Hope Zone. And I was so impressed by Marlone when I met him, because he was telling me, he said, I was like, Marlone, like, you speak pretty good English. Like, how have you done this? He said, well, actually, he said, when I asked Steve about coming on staff with Kids Around the World, he told me that I needed to learn English. And I said, well, how? And he said, figure it out. I don't know. And he said, so I figured it out. He said, I started buying books in English and just reading in English. He said,
I thought he was going to say something along the lines of, I watched The Office or something.
Well, he would watch his shows with English subtitles.
Okay.
And he was like, and I've been teaching my kids and my wife English also. And so, that's like, great. his kids are being raised bilingual, like, which is going to be an incredible asset for them, because, like, in countries like that, having translators available. Like, I remember when I went to Honduras, and one of the girls could speak English too. And, like, the governor was actually asking her to come along and be to work for him, because she was about to age out, and be her translator, because she was so good. Oh, yeah. And, like, so it just had that kind of personality that was great. And, like, and so it was just cool to see that and hear that. But I was like, oh, Marlone's, like, the contact. So, it's pretty cool. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited for y'all. It's going to be an amazing trip. So what are the dates for that trip?
We begin our flight there on November 5th, Sunday evening. We'll have it overnight, so we won't actually get there until the 6th. But and then we leave out on the 11th.
Yep.
So.
Yep. We're awesome. We're all excited, and I think it's going to be an amazing trip. And we'll be praying for you. So if you're listening, just mark that on your calendars, just to be in prayer for our team, November 5th through the 11th, and that they just have safe trip, no injuries, and that they can get this playground built in our Hope Zone in Las Chacras, Ecuador, with our partner, Kids Around the World. Now, another thing that I wanted to talk to you about is you're always like reading. You're always reading.
Yeah.
Like you and your husband are like always reading.
Yes.
Like y'all are.
Yeah, I'm very thankful for Kindle and Audible because then we do not have all the physical books in our house anymore.
Yeah. We got rid of Audible because we weren't using it, but Kindle, yes.
I still use it.
Yep.
But I do that a lot more than I do podcasts. So.
But you also share a lot of things too.
Yeah.
You're like, hey, I came across something that's really good. Not necessarily like a book about wizards and dragons or something, which maybe sometimes, but like a lot of the leadership stuff that you're taking in, and you're like, oh, this would be like really good. And you came across something recently, and you sent it out to me, and it's my favorite thing in the whole wide world. Let me tell you. But it was just an assessment, you know, like, look, I'll tell you this much. I don't mind doing them, and I will continue to do them. And you have to just let me be vocal. But the day that somebody sends me an assessment that's trying to tell me to figure out what type of cheese I am, I'm quitting. I'm leaving Southridge Church. I am.
What kind of cheese do you think you'd be?
Swiss, because I'm holy. Oh, dang. That was fast.
I set myself up with that one, didn't I?
Yeah.
Goodness.
Yep, that was pretty good.
Okay.
Or Munster cheese. I don't know. Gruyere,
just
smoked.
No. Just stop. You're Swiss because you're holy. That was perfect.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
Yep.
Assessments.
So you sent me these. I don't know anything about this, and I'm sure that you will do a better job at explaining this. So I just took your questions, and it was trying to tell me of what my primal question is likely to be. And I got my results, and so whenever I think primal, I think of animals, like killing other animals. That's what I think of.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah. So this is the 7 primal questions assessment. Now, if you would have worked here, which... did you work with him for a little while?
Yeah, we shared office.
Sorry, it was like one of those weird things because I was on maternity leave when you first came, and then when I came, he left. Anyway, so our previous one of our previous pastors was the assessment guy all the time, and I don't mind assessments, like especially if I feel like they're of value, but
it's just so hard to keep up with the results because you have these 4-digit numbers on one, and this is your response. And whenever people meet you, you're like, what's your number? And you're like, I don't know, I'm a 1576.
So
like that just doesn't make sense. And then
those
another one that's like, okay, are you a color?
2B or something, like the one that's like, I don't know, there's like 4 letters on each of it. That's confusing to me. I don't know. But I follow this guy named Mike Foster, and he's a counselor. He has like a fun therapy podcast, and if any of this ends up interesting you, please go listen to the book, read the book, listen to his stuff, because it's going to be better than my explanations too. But
because he wrote it.
Yeah, exactly. And he's done all the research and all the things. But really, the 7 primal questions is he says it's like the thing underneath the thing that drives everything about you, like everything you do, that it's about understanding you better. And he says that like when one of these questions, it really stems from childhood, that in childhood at some point, one of these questions either went unanswered or it was consistently a no. Yeah. And that when that happens, it follows you into adulthood, and it ends up like driving a lot of what you do and how you feel about things and your interactions. He says it's like the sun that your emotional needs and reactions kind of revolve around. And so when you have this question that's answered with a yes, like things are good, life's good, things are good. But when it's a no, you enter what he calls a scramble.
Yeah.
And you go back to, you try to force your way back to it being answered as yes. So like the 7 questions are, am I safe? Am I secure? Am I loved? Am I wanted? Am I successful? Am I good enough? And do I have purpose? And so like when you have certain things, like, so am I safe? Like a lot of times that could stem from someone who's had some kind of abuse in their life as a child. That obviously was a big no for them.
Yeah.
Am I secure? That deals with more financial security. Am I loved? You know, if they grew up in a home where they didn't feel that, then they probably have this. Am I wanted? Has a lot to do with like belonging and rejection. And so, you know, do you want me around? Do you want me here? Like, or you just invited me just because, like those kind of things.
Yeah.
Am I successful? They maybe were raised in a home that it was like, they prided themselves in doing well in academics or doing well in sport, like those types of things.
High standards.
Am I good enough? Probably a little similar. Deepak says a little bit better, but like, you know, if maybe you're in a household where it's like sibling rivalry or like those kind of like, I don't know. And do I have purpose? He said that this one comes from a lot of people who have like, who grow up in faith-based homes and maybe have been told like, you know, hey, you're going to do big things for God in your life. Like God's going to use you in a great, like those types of stuff. And he said that's not bad, but like, that's what he's seen in all the research, like that tends to come up with people who've been raised in that type of household. But when it's answered no, and people enter into the scramble, he said it can look like, people who are workaholics, because they're trying to be successful, right? They're trying to get that. People who go to people pleasing. That's probably that, like, you know, am I wanted? Am I good enough?
Yeah.
Codependency, control, like all these different things that maybe aren't that great. Like they enter into those types of things and will do stuff to try to get that answer back to a yes. But as I like have dug into it, it just made me like curious. I sent it out to all the staff actually, because I'm like curious, because as I was listening to it, I was like, oh, I wonder if that's why this person is kind of this way when this happens. And I wonder if, you know, like not just for myself, but because he talks a lot about how like this will help you in your relationships, like, and in your marriage. And he actually has like a portion where he talks about marriage specifically and how this can come into play in marriage relationships. And, but I just found it fascinating. I've seen him speak at conferences and things, so I just follow him regularly. And at first, like, I was like, what is this? You know?
Yeah.
But like, as I've just dug in, I'm like, man, this is really like, it's a pretty simple assessment, and his information on it and the just practicality of how you can come to understand yourself and maybe even, you know, others a little bit better, and how you can change the way that you interact with them is just really helpful and practical. So like, for instance, maybe you know someone, and I have someone in my mind for this, who their question is, am I wanted? And so like, instead of saying, hey, we're doing this thing, would you want to come? Like, you change your verbiage to where it's like,
I would love for you to be there.
I would love for you to come to this.
Yeah.
Like, I would love for you to be there. And so, yeah, like, it's so simple. And it's like just the change of verbiage, because to us, we're just asking, and it doesn't seem like a big deal to us, but to them, it's like, oh, but they're asking me. They might actually want me to say no, you know? And so, it's pretty cool. But he also talks about like, so you have your primal question, and when you operate at your best is when you're actually operating in your primal truth. So all you do is you take your question and turn it into a statement. so yours is,
am I secure? And then I need to turn it around and say, I am secure.
yes. And so instead of, you know, trying to answer that question, you come from it in the primal truth, knowing I am secure. And so then you go into this place where you're kind of reoriented, where you're like, I'm in control of the answer to this. Like,
Yeah.
I'm in control of it. And so instead of operating in a way that maybe you're worried that this is going to be no, you do things like you say, I am secure and I can do things to make sure I am secure. Like, you're in control of it. And so I think yours is interesting because it does deal with finances. But so, like, really with finances especially, yeah, you can't always control how much you get paid or how much the utilities cost or those kind of things. But you do have a lot of control in the way that you choose to spend your money, in the way. And I feel like you guys, I feel like are really cool in the way, like Anthony, I talk about you all a lot because I'm like, you all are disciplined in the way that you spend your money and the way you use your money to the point to where like, yeah, exactly. Like we're terrible about that. Like we've gotten way, 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 way better. Okay. Cause we've had to lately. But we're sitting there like, they're a single income family. And I'm like, there's no reason why we should be struggling at all, because I'm like, we just need to do better with that. But it is,
we got rid of all of our streaming services. Yeah. We got like the only thing, like I think the only thing that we actually spend money on aside from like just electricity and water and food and obvious stuff like that is like people that would say that they're necessities, but they're not even necessities. And so it's kind of made us question it, like, and this is going to sound like really absurd, especially living in America, but it's like, do we need internet at the house? And do we really need our cell phones?
Yeah.
And that's driving me a little crazy because I need my phone obviously for work, but like, it's making me think, do I need everything else that come, like, do I really, 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 really need to spend the amount of money on a cell phone that most people do? Because most people just go in there and they buy the unlimited plan, and it's $100 a month per line. Yeah. Which is what we have. We have 3 people in my house that have cell phones. So we get a little bit of a discount with the third one. Yeah. But at the same time, it's like, okay, I can tap into Wi-Fi pretty much anywhere. So I would need the internet at my house. I mean, I don't need to go into the whole Dave Ramsey situation. I can tap into Wi-Fi at church. So I don't necessarily need unlimited everything, because it's not like I'm traveling a lot for my job, and I need the minutes or the cellular data or anything like that. So it's like, okay, can I rethink like what I'm paying a month in stupid cell phone bill? Yes, obviously I can whittle this down. But more importantly, like a lot of the questions and what, like, studying and looking into this a little bit last night was the security for me is, yes, we all want to be financially secure and I want to be able to do this, but also a lot of the crap situations that I was in ministry before, just being let go, or working in an environment that was very toxic. And so not being able to know exactly what I can plan and prep for, a lot of that insecurity comes from, I've got to be able to provide for my family, because that's what God has asked me to do. And so there's still a lot of those questions of, you know, I just need to make sure that I'm stockpiling as much money as I can. So in the rare event that it happens here, I don't even believe it'll happen here, because first off, I know that this is what God has asked me to do. There's a lot of confirmation for it. And not that I know of, I'm not in any trouble. Maybe Scott can shed some light into that next time we have a one-on-one. But you know what I'm saying? It's like, he actually does a really good job of letting me know, hey, let's improve in this area. You know, Scott's really, 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 really good at that. At just leading us as individuals, but also as pastors as well. But I think it's just, you carry around a lot of those uncertainty with you. Yeah.
Is there anything like from childhood that you feel like has sparked some of that in you? Like Do you feel like your dad was kind of that way, or was
my
that
dad
talked
was
about?
super frugal.
Mm-hmm.
So, growing up in Louisiana, we lived okay. We
Mm-hmm.
lived okay, and we all like the first house that I remember that I grew up in. It was smaller, and but it fit everybody's needs, and sometimes we were on top of each other, and that's okay. But whenever my dad got promotions in his job, and we ended up moving to Texas, and he's making drastically more money than he probably ever could have imagined, but it was his hard work.
Mm-hmm.
His spending habits never changed.
Right.
We may have had a little bit of a bigger house and better cars, more reliable vehicles, I should say, but his spending habits never changed. You go to his house right now, and he is still using and maintaining things with like the same set of tools that he's had for the longest time. He's may have added a couple things here and there, but he saves a lot of things too, because he's one of those types of people that he's like, you never know whenever you're gonna need it, and so he's got a shop that's just stacked full of stuff. But it's funny, you're like, hey Dad, you got a tool for this specific job, and he's like, oh yeah, I've got this thing, and it's rusted out, but it still works.
Right.
Like, he doesn't get rid of things, and he saves those things because he doesn't want to waste money on something that he's already spent money on. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so, like, I'm not like a hoarder or anything, and that's like a mild way of putting my dad's obsession with things. But it still has instilled in me to, if I spend money on something, I would rather get something that's nice and I know it's going to be reliable, that's going to last me a long time, because that's what he's done. I don't want to waste money on stuff. And like, if it's got a practical use, like I just bought some new shoes like recently, but I'm doing a lot of running because of it. Like because the shoes that I had, like I literally went running in every single pair of shoes that I have, and they just weren't doing the job for me. My ankles were hurting, my knees were hurting.
Well, as John Acuff's wife tells him, shoes are cheaper than knees.
Yes, God Almighty, shoes are cheaper than knees. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to get on Amazon and try to buy a new knee, but it's one of those things that just for me, it was like I've got I want to be a better steward of the generation that was before me. And even though my dad was very, very, very successful in his business and what he did, even though with the amount of money that I'm making in ministry, I still want to be successful in the sense of I want to set my kids up. I want to be able to help them purchase their first car. I want to be able to help them get through college, and just leave a legacy of, it's not about my needs, but it's about my kids' needs, because that's what my parents did for me. It wasn't necessarily about them. It was about the 5 kids that they had, and they took care of them financially. Whenever they got out of high school, my dad helped me buy my first car. He said, as long as you stay in college, I'll put a tank of gas in your car a week. And just those little things like that just, to where my focus was on school. Now, my first stint in college, I pooped on it. I was just doing my own thing. I call it building my testimony years or whatever. But yeah, so that's where a lot of it comes from. I want to be able to provide for my kids the things that they actually need, just with clothing and cars and stuff, and just whatever they need, I want to be able to give to them. And so a lot of that comes from, how do I provide for my family? We don't go out to eat. We eat ramen and hot dogs, we should have bought stock in the Marichan and ballpark stocks.
Goodness. No, that's cool. But so, like, within your question, your need is to have financial security. your core fear is not having enough resources to protect yourself. Like, so that's that, like, I want to have this in case something happens. And your kryptonite is a financial instability. So like during that time of losing a job, that was probably very difficult. Mine was the 7th one. Do I have purpose? Which is interesting. 'Cause like, as I listened to the book, I'm like, oh my gosh, I could, like, any of these could actually be me. Because like most people know, like I have a story where, you know, my home life was not good. My childhood was not good. There was a lot of trauma, abuse. I mean, we often didn't have enough. It was very interesting. But so, I was like, when it came up and after I listened to the book, I'm like, maybe I need to go back and take it again. But maybe I just, because of all of that, I wanted, you know, to know that there was purpose from it all, maybe. 'Cause I did grow up. I mean, even though they're like, my dad and my stepmom weren't very, faith-based people. My mom was, like, we were always in church. We church hopped some. I don't know. Like I was baptized multiple times. Yeah. To become a member of a church with my family. Anyway, but I was baptized once because it was me and I wanted to get baptized. But anyway, so mine's like, do I have purpose? And the need is to have, for significant impact and significance, or for significance and impact. There we go. The core fear is not making a difference. And the kryptonite is working on things that don't matter. And I was like, oh man, some of this makes so much sense. 'Cause after, Sunday sermon, you know, there's a portion that talks about like, not being lazy and to work enthusiastically at everything you do, you know, whatever. And I'm like, you know, I wouldn't have thought that I was lazy, but there are like some things that I just find so like menial and like just tedious or whatever that I just don't enjoy. And I'm like, I need to find enjoyment in it. But then I'm like, some of those are probably, to me, like, feel like they don't really matter. And I was like, okay, this is making a little bit more sense. But he says that, like, for everyone who has one, like, you actually have a primal gift also. Yeah. And so within that, it's taking it and it gives you this, like, relational superpower once you understand it.
Yeah, they wanted me to sign up, and I was like, I'm not signing up for that to find out my gift.
Yeah, I mean.
Just tell me what's wrong with me.
But really, it's just taking that, and, like, he says that, like, because of the way that you grow up and the way you've lived your life, you are actually somewhat of an expert in your primal question. Like, you've just shared with us all these ways that you've figured out how to be a good steward and save money and do these things and cut out these things. Like, I know you've done Dave Ramsey stuff. Like, you are an expert in financial stuff in a way, because that's been the drive for you in a lot of your life. And so within that, like, now you can use that in ways to help other people. Like, some people listening to this may be like, oh, wow, that's a great idea. I never thought of that now because of what you've shared. And he says that it can often, like, help clarify your calling. But he said, you know, for people who their question is like, am I wanted? Then you become an expert in belonging and rejection and how to make people feel welcome. And am I safe? Like, that's Mike Foster's. And he says he's a counselor. All right. So he is all about helping to create safe environments where people feel like they can, you know, talk about their deep hurts and their things, like, and that type of stuff. And so, it's just really cool to take that look. And so, like, one of the things that really impacted me from the book, and I'll end with this, is that he says, you know, instead of operating for this, you change that for to a from. And so instead of operating in a way that you're like trying to find safety, you're operating for safety. You're trying to do this for security. You're trying to do this for love. You're trying to do this for to be wanted or whatever. He was like, operate from a place of that. And so you operate from a place of security. Yeah. You operate from a place of safety, from a place of knowing that you're loved. And when you can do that, then it changes the way that you interact with others and see yourself and all of that. And so, like, if you want to know more, MikeFoster.tv and 7 Primal Questions. You can buy it on Amazon, Audible, whatever. But it's a lot. It's really, really cool stuff. So.
Alrighty. It's time for our mystery meat question. If you have never, ever joined us and you're kind of curious what a mystery meat question is, it's a whole bunch of random questions that I type out, put it in a jar.
It's a mystery.
It's a mystery. Like, I don't even know what's coming up. If you could be a guest on any podcast, who would it be and why? After you just said you don't listen to podcasts.
No, I do listen to them. I just don't listen to them as often as I probably listen to books.
Yeah.
Like, I'll have a few days where maybe I listen to a bunch of podcasts and then I go like a week.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
Without it.
I save them up because I can't just do. I want to be able to just be podcast focused, so I just wait like a week or two and then I just go through everything.
Yeah. So podcasts. Which one you answer first?
There's a couple of them, obviously. I think I would probably have a blast on Nate Bargatze's.
Yeah.
He's a comedian.
Yeah.
There's also
you
another.
Could share your cheese joke.
Yeah, I could share my cheese joke. There's also another one that I like listening to, and it's like I listen to like a lot of comedy podcasts, or I listen to like leadership stuff. Like I listen to Craig Rochelle and his leadership podcast, but he only does like one a month. But it's called Dudesy. It's called Dudesy, and there's a comedian / actor. His name's Will Sasso. He used to be on Mad TV, and whenever they did like the movie reboot of the Three Stooges, he played Curly. And I don't know, he's a funny guy, and they talk about everything, and they talk about wrestling too, which I'm kind of into. I'm not kind of into. I am into.
Yeah.
I wear a wrestling shirt on Sundays sometimes, and everybody's like, "What's that moth on your shirt?"
Zav notices.
Yeah, I know. But I would even be on like a wrestling podcast. I just want to talk about fake fighting. I don't know. It's entertainment value. I mean, we go watch Marvel movies and they fake fight.
Yeah.
Don't come at me.
That is true. I mean, I would probably want to do Toni Collier's Still Coloring podcast. She, they're in Atlanta, but she is super fun. She wrote a book called Brave Enough to Be Broken, and her whole still coloring is like the Broken Crown still color.
Yeah.
And so like her whole thing is about, just because you've been hurt, you've been through this, you've been through that, like doesn't mean that you don't still have purpose and can't still fulfill your purpose.
Yeah.
And so she's like, maybe you've been broken, but like you still have something to give. And so she's super fun, but her podcast, like she has all kinds of different people on there. And they just share their stories and that type of stuff. But so I love her. I follow her, and she's probably not like super well known, but I think it would be a lot of fun and cool.
Yep.
Toni Collier, if you're listening.
Yeah.
Reach out to me.
I would be very surprised. But whenever you get back into town, we'll probably have you and Jess on and give us an update from the Ecuador trip. I think that would be great.
That'd be awesome.
But thank you so much for listening. We hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you next Friday for another episode of the Pastor's Potluck Podcast. Thank you so much for listening in with us today. We really appreciate it. If you haven't done so already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. You can also follow us on social media, on Facebook, Instagram, and you can also watch the video version of this on YouTube as well. All you have to do is search up the Pastor's Potluck Podcast. From all of us here, we want to say thank you, and we'll see you next week.
Kids like to come up with rhyming words all the time, so they got me doing it.